Welcome to Short Cover, where we wrangle the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here for a review, a short story review. Short story, Shirley Jackson. Dalton, what are we doing this time?
Damn. Calm yourself. This is Shirley Jackson's The Lottery. Probably her best known story. Very popular in the world of literature. Good story, too. I enjoy this one.
Very good.
So hopefully we get a little bit we agree on that.
Yeah.
So just a brief rundown here, what we got going on?
Yeah.
So basically we get a very small town atmosphere where once a year everyone gathers at the town square essentially, and they draw from a box slips of paper, and somebody ends up with the terrifying black dot, the black spot.
We don't know what that is.
We don't know what that is.
But no one wants it.
But nobody wants it. And we come to find out that whoever draws that, they draw again with just the immediate family. And again, everybody's very nervous about this. And whoever gets that dark mark again is stoned to death.
Yeah.
By the town folk.
A culling.
As is tradition.
Yeah.
Adrian, got some good things, got some bad things?
We got 3 good things, we got 3 bad things, we got quotes, we got literary analysis, rating, and recommendation based on the text. 3 good things. Number 1, subversion of expectation. This whole time we are led to believe this is going to go a different way than it is. We are led to believe that something is coming, but we don't know what, and at the end it all comes together. And boy, does it. Number 2, at its worst, this is a great episode of The Twilight Zone.
Okay.
And number 3, no, this is a gut buster.
Okay.
This is going to hit you.
Okay. I think, again, we are on similar paths here. My first good thing is the first time you read this, it's going to level you because you ain't expecting that ending, and it's good. Number 2.
Especially, if I could interject, called The Lottery.
Yeah, you don't expect
Modern
it
day,
at all.
we have an association with the lottery being something good.
Oh, really?
Somebody's going to win.
I expect it's what I'm losing every week.
Well, $1 though, right?
A whole dollar.
But you think about it. Boy, if I won this $3 billion, what would I do with it?
Best entertainment you'd have all week. Anyway, number 2 here, Jackson perfectly captures the feel of a small town throughout this piece. It is perfect. There is no question about it. And number 3, there are small things hidden within this. Shirley Jackson's great at this. We've talked about it a lot. Small things hidden, such as those stones being piled up by the kids, that you don't notice until it's very readily apparent.
And the second time you read it, you can't
know it's
not
coming.
notice it.
You know it's coming.
Yeah.
It's a train wreck. You see it. You can't look away.
But as all works of literature, 3 bad things. Number 1, I can't really shake the Twilight Zone association.
Okay.
It is so Twilight Zone-y that every time I read it, I see it in black and white on a square television screen. You know what I mean?
You are now entering the Twilight
Yeah.
Zone.
Number 2, as a writer, I would like to see some more of the senses worked in.
Okay.
The tactile stuff. What's the weather like? How does it feel? Who's sweating?
Okay.
Things like that I think would really immerse you into the story in a way that... So I think it's written in a way that it does feel like the Twilight Zone because you're not feeling it either. You're watching it.
Okay.
You're watching all this from a distance, right? And number 3, I'd have liked a couple more Old Man Warners. I really liked that character.
Okay. I think I got a similar comment on some characters here, but my 3 bad things, a lot of the characters in this are completely throwaway. I get the necessity for them. You're trying to build that town, but a lot of them are just completely unmemorable and throwaway characters, very two-dimensional. Along with that, the dialogue throughout this, although very believable and necessary, is incredibly moving. It's just kind of there. I don't think you're going to get a lot of great dialogue, a lot of good quotable dialogue throughout this. And number 3, as with everything that I read with Shirley Jackson, that twist, that climax, there it is and it's done. It's that full build-up, like there is no rising action to Shirley Jackson. It just happens and it's over.
Yeah, and
if you blink, you'll miss it.
Yeah.
Notes?
Yeah.
I'm very proud of myself, actually. I had this actually bookmarked from when we read it in college. And I remember a little bit about the lottery. I'm like, I think I remember enjoying that. And then you reread it again. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
I did enjoy this. Oh my. Anyway, let's talk about some quotes.
Yeah.
Do we have some good quotes?
Yeah. for me, in this collection, Literature Quotable Anthology, 2nd edition, this quote happens on 246. Old man Warner snorted. "Pack of crazy fools," he said. "Listening to them young folk, nothing's good enough for them. Next thing you know, they'll be wanting to go back to living in caves. Nobody works anymore. Lived that way for a while. There used to be a saying about the lottery. Lottery in June, corn be heavy soon. First thing you know, we'd be eating stewed chickweed and acorns. There's always been a lottery," he said petulantly. Bad enough to see young Joe Summers up there joking with everybody." Oh, you've got that.
Oh, yeah, I got that same quote. I had a little bit more. I had the beginning line before it, the line after it. But yeah, I think, and a big point that I want to talk about here is the idea of traditions, and traditions especially in small towns. That is brilliantly summed up. Do you have the other same quote? I think you do.
No, but I've got that for a talking point a little bit. My last quote is the final line. "It isn't fair. It isn't right." Mrs. Hutchison screamed, and then they were upon her.
It's nice. Do you mind if I use this quote, or do you want to say it for your talking point?
Go ahead.
Although the villagers had forgotten the ritual and lost the original black box, they still remembered to use stones. The pile of stones the boys had made earlier was ready. There were stones on the ground with glowing scraps of paper that had come out of the box. It's good. It's a good piece. Where do you want to start with it?
I would like to start with that quote that you just talked about. I think if you stop a little short of that, it's not a great literary quote, but it's a sentence so good, it's worth a tattoo.
Although the villagers had forgotten the ritual and lost the original black box, they still remembered to use stones.
That's a hell of a tattoo.
Yeah?
Yeah.
As a person who is very thematically tattooed, I want a literature tattoo. It's not going to be that, but it's coming.
I think that's a great line. I don't think it's a quotable line, but I think it's a great line.
It is a good line.
And I think it's weird that there is a difference between the two things, is it not? It is a great line. It's not a quotable line. It's not something I want to pick out, but it's something that is so good and so deep and so rich, and it brings the literature to such a head that it is potent. It is potent more than it is good.
Very much Arthur Miller's The Crucible. Are you familiar? The play?
Ish.
There's just a quote from Giles Corey as he's being pressed to death. He says, "More weight," which it doesn't mean a goddamn thing, but when put into context with the piece, it's a good line. It's a great line. I think that's kind of similar to what we're getting at here, but I think that's absolutely wonderful. I'm about it. Shirley Jackson is good with wordplay. She is good. She knows how to get into your emotions with her wordplay.
Yeah.
All right.
And along that same thought process, you said you didn't like the dialogue. Mm-mm. I am wondering, so is the dialogue not good or is it not literary? Because I think that it's very immersive.
Yes. It was hard to come up with a bad thing and like how to justify this. Because I did say, I think the dialogue is necessary. I think it's completely believable. It's very small town dialogue. It feels stale on occasion. And maybe it's just missing those literary quips to it. Maybe it's missing that. It just feels stale. But I can also argue that that's necessary. You go to a small town barbershop, it's nothing but stale talk.
Right. It's stale, but it immediately puts you there, doesn't it?
It does. It sets the scene. It paints the picture. It's just, I don't know. I wasn't happy with it. But I get its purpose. I understand it. I can appreciate it.
See, and that's what makes me feel that it's so good. Okay. Because you know from reading other Shirley Jackson, she's capable of much more than this.
True, very true.
So this isn't
just poor writing.
Right. This is not the extent of her ability.
Okay.
As words. It is the extent of her ability as far as immersion in the piece. You're there, baby. You know these people.
Very true.
And to argue against you, both of us picked one of the same quotes. What was that same quote?
It was dialogue.
It was dialogue.
Unfortunately, I was not thinking ahead. I do not have the date of publication for the lottery. Do you?
I think it's 1948.
Perfect. I do find something very interesting here, and it's the idea of mob mentality, the idea of society just crumbling and immediately having that turn, that Shirley Jackson pop, where they turn into the full-scale mob. This was published in 1948. 1948 seems like a very wholesome time. That very, good family time. Dad goes to work, mom takes care of the house, the kids are raised, everybody's happy. To sling this out at that point in time, nice. It still rings true today. If you put a large group of people like this, and this is a small town. Small towns, everyone grows up together. I went to school with the same kids that I went to school in kindergarten with. We all went to the same school. We all grew up together. That's what this is to me. And to say that these people you've known all your life, that have probably been to your house, you grew up with, in an instant you can just turn on them in that mob mentality and stone them to death, that's phenomenal. And that is poignant. And when you take that, even in today, it's very uncomfortable, but very true. If you place that in 1948, I think it is all the more uncomfortable. But there's that lingering idea, that human animalistic rage that's just back there that exists.
And why would that have been prevalent?
Why would that have been prevalent?
In 1948, why would that have been at the forefront of people's minds?
Go on. The end of World War II?
No.
What?
The inciting events of World War II.
Okay.
The Jews were rounded up and put into concentration camps. Well, the Jews is a very distant way to say that.
Okay.
Your neighbor was Jewish. The guy down the street was Jewish.
There's that great quote. I believe it's actually in one of the Holocaust museums. Said, first they came for the bakers, but I wasn't a baker.
Reinhold Niebuhr. It's a Reinhold Niebuhr poem,
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, that is where this comes from.
Okay.
But it's also, we've read a little bit of Shirley Jackson. Mm-hmm. Shirley Jackson often in her pieces has these sudden turns of emotion.
Okay.
The turn towards hatred, often in Shirley Jackson, works. But, like you said, there's no rising action. It's just, hey, we're here. Everyone's here. All right, who's dying?
True.
Anger.
If I can compare some other Shirley Jacksons here, this is the moment in Haunting of Hill House where she rams that car into the tree. Oh, where'd that come from? There it is. It's over.
It's also all of these turns where that same character started hating everyone else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the moment in We've Always Lived in the Castle when very much, again, that mob mentality clicks in where, we're saving these people. We're putting out the fire. No, we're not. Let's turn. Shirley Jackson is wonderful at that. And it's interesting because I think if I were to sit down and try to write something like that with a turn like that, it would feel clunky and heavy-handed. It wouldn't fit. But somehow Shirley Jackson makes it work where it's believable and you don't miss a beat. It is completely, you're sold hook, line, and sinker with it. It's wonderful. It is good.
Because there is some recognizable element in it, right?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Do you know what that recognizable element is here?
What is that, Adrian?
This is religion.
Okay.
This is religion.
We've
forgotten what it's all about.
Okay.
We don't remember the original. We don't even have the same box anymore. These new places we do things are new places we do things. But we've got the same rituals.
Okay.
And the rituals, the ritual doesn't really mean anything, right? But it's the ritual.
We got to do it.
It's the ritual. This was, I believe this was published in 48. That's the date at the end of the piece in the book, which is normally where you put a publication date. 1948, and they read like contemporary characters, right?
They do, which is great.
So you've got guns. You could make these things less painful, but the stones...
It's just the way we do things.
Yeah. When would someone have used a stone? What are the famous stone stories we know?
Often, a lot of times, very biblical.
Yeah, it's in the Bible.
Okay.
Those were back those days, you didn't have guns.
We want to take somebody out, you got to stone them to death.
It's the sling, right?
Okay.
David and Goliath had, that was a stoning.
In a ritualistic look at this, if we are going with a Christian theme, this very much seems that if things were to continue ritualistically, this seems very much like the human sacrifice as well. What if we just decided to stay on board with the human sacrifice, and over time it had developed through generations until it just became normalized? That's exactly what this is. Once a year, let's all get together because those crops aren't going to grow unless we stone somebody to death. Don't question it. This is what we do. And although some of those people, those non-believers, are getting away from it, absolutely not. We're not going to risk that. That's obscene. We've done this all the time. We've done this forever.
Yeah.
It is the idea that there is some traditional ritualistic thing that has gone through generations that we have just come to accept.
Yes.
Babies born, dunk it in water. Purify it.
Yeah.
This seems to me very much like a sacrifice to the gods. That's what I got from that.
Yeah, it's a play on religion.
A normalized religion, yes.
So religions are handed down.
Mm-hmm.
Ritualistic. You know what else is handed down in a semi-ritualistic fashion?
What's that?
Last names.
Okay.
Shirley Jackson is a master of slipping name play into her
Please tell me
work.
I didn't miss one. Did I miss one?
I don't know if you missed one or not. Did you get any?
No, I
missed
always glaze over the Shirley Jackson names.
Mr. Graves.
Okay.
Graves.
Graves.
Mr. Summers.
Summers.
As in before fall.
Okay.
Or before the fall.
Okay.
Delacroix.
Of the cross?
Yep.
Okay.
What does that mean?
It's of the cross.
Who was of the cross?
Jesus.
Well, I'll be
damned.
Mr. Warner. Old Man Warner. Basically, that's a military type name. Warner, one who warns.
Okay.
What is Mr. Warner warning against?
Shouldn't get rid of this tradition.
We gotta have it. We've always had it. We're going to have it.
Interesting. Damn you, Shirley Jackson.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. She slips them in so well that you don't think about it.
And again, I think that really goes to the point of the mastery of Shirley Jackson's writing. Because again, if I am trying to write something and I put in something, somebody named Delacroix, it feels clunky and it feels heavy-handed. Oh, he put that. God damn it. But Shirley Jackson does it so seamlessly. I glaze right over it every time.
Yeah, and the big deal about it in the text. Look at your text, any page in here. How are the characters referred to in the narration, not in the dialogue?
Mr. Summers asked. Mrs. Hutchinson was saying. Mr. Summers directed.
That is the ritualistic part of your name. That is the part of your name that is handed down. Your last name is handed down. Okay. She's drawing you right towards the handed down portion of you. So you might be drawn out of that box. You might be set in front of everyone. They might be upon you.
Hold on here. We're just playing with this. Is in the text, not just, saying when they're naming out the names or anything, is anyone's first name used besides Bill and Tessie throughout the text?
I believe
Bill and Tessie, because I do see her time sure does go fast, Mr. Graves says, Clark, Delacroix.
Nancy, who were the names that you had?
Bill and Tessie.
Nancy's here.
Okay.
Some of the kids are named.
All right, never mind.
Bobby
Martin. Okay. Never mind. Forget my point. I was trying to add on to something, but damn it, no, I'm wrong. Let's talk briefly about tradition, because if we're going to talk about, normalizing religion, there's a lot to be said about tradition here, because we have a small town. In small towns, traditions are everything.
Tradition is king.
Tradition is king, and tradition, like you said, is constantly passed down, and that's exactly what this is. It has become the town tradition. My small town has weird-ass town traditions, they do. We start the St. Patrick's Day Parade at 4:13 in the afternoon every St. Patrick's Day. Because the first day they did it, they started late at 4:13, and now we can't do it any other time. It's got to be 4:13. This is that small town mentality of handing down that tradition. And although it never meant anything, it has come to mean something. And the breaking of that tradition breaks the town.
And it is, okay, so big cities, what do you look forward to?
The fall festivals,
big cities, you look forward to the new.
Okay.
What's new? What's happening?
Okay.
And that's where the term happening comes from, right? What is new? That is a big city thing.
You go to the small towns for the holistic things.
The small towns are about what happened.
Okay.
In small towns, we look backwards. Big towns, we look forwards. So it is one of those small things, obviously someone's going to point out the Macy's Day Parade in New York or wherever it is, Yeah. But that is not the idea associated with the big city. The big city is the future.
True.
The future is the city. The town is the past. And we even look those directions when we're there. How many... I work with this older fella. Great guy. Love him. Very small town. His entire life is outside of work. He loves trains. He loves streetcars. He goes to the Transportation Museum. I think it's in Ohio.
Okay.
Once, like 3 times a year, he'll go there. That's a drive, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's an older fella, but he's not going to miss it. He's going to go there. And it's weird because small towns have small town historians.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Where do you go? You don't go to the big city historian.
No.
You go to the big city
Okay.
and you go to the shops, right? You go to the stores because that's where the next stuff is coming, right? That's where the stuff from Paris is, right? That's where the new exists.
Small town mentality. It's that focused on the past. We went to a place called Moon Marble. Are you familiar with that? It's a place. It's actually one of they call it the 7 Wonders of Kansas City. It is one of the few places in the world where they still hand make glass blown marbles, and they ship them all over the world. And when we were there, we were watching a demonstration. A woman was making marble. There was an older gentleman there. You could tell very conservative, very small town, who was just the authority on marbles. And he had traveled I don't know how many states over just to visit this place.
Yeah.
Just so he could take that back to the town and pass on the marbles to the next generation.
Yeah.
So that is a thing, absolutely, for sure. And what kept coming up with me was with the idea of tradition. Are you familiar with what cheese rolling is?
Yes.
There's some town, it's like England or Ireland, somewhere over in the UK area. They roll that huge wheel of cheese down a hill, and everybody chases it. And people fall down this hill and maim themselves.
Yeah, it's bad stuff.
To get that wheel of cheese. You know why? Because it's what we've always fucking done. And we're going to keep on doing it.
Way to point someone in particular out, Dalton.
Cheese rolling. Only because I was talking about it not long ago. I'm like, I'd do that. I'd hurt myself for
That's
a wheel
worth
of cheese.
spraining your knee.
I'd be about that. Anyway, I do think there's a lot of good things going on here, and I cannot help read this and not think of my hometown.
Yeah.
So that is just flawless. Flawless emotional association by Shirley Jackson.
So I've got one more thing to talk about. Do you have anything?
Carry on.
Mrs. Hutchison, and this idea of guilt. She almost missed the lottery.
Yeah.
Almost missed it. Guess what? Well, she didn't miss it, did she?
Yeah.
So that's another thing that Shirley Jackson is just a master of doing, is she will plant an emotion at the beginning, which is out of place at the time. Guilt.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the story. We earn it at the end.
We certainly do.
Or it's at least played out, right? So this is another thing that Shirley Jackson does and does so well. And it sort of beckons to the idea of so your own mind you're not in control of. You have free will is sort of an illusion, if you read Sam Harris, but you don't know from whence your ideas manifest. Right?
Try not to think about penguins.
You're thinking about penguins.
Yeah.
Your emotions are the same way. They rise and they fall, and you've got no real say over them. And it's mysterious.
Okay.
So she mysteriously plants an out-of-place emotion early in the story. And then it comes home. Right? Which is just sort of this, it feels ethereal. Okay. Right? It feels, this is a very grounded story, but it has a very paranormal feel to it, right? Like a Twilight Zone episode.
It's very Twilight Zone, yes.
And I think that's just, that's something masterful about Shirley Jackson and gorgeous about the works.
I am always torn with Shirley Jackson because some of her stories, some of her books, they work. This works wonderfully for me. Some of them, not a fan. But every single time you read it, there is so much that can be appreciated from it.
Yeah.
It's great writing. There's a lot that can be appreciated, even if it doesn't work for you.
Right.
So, Adrian, what would you rate The Lottery by Shirley Jackson?
I'd give this 93 stones out of 100.
I gave it 90 stones. So I think we're both at an A rating. I didn't want to go too high with it because I'm like, nah, you've been away for a month. You're just reading something new again. You're fresh. Don't give it that high. But no, absolutely quality. I'd be right alongside with you there. What would you recommend if you like The Lottery?
Step into the Twilight Zone.
You recommend the Twilight Zone?
Yes.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. It's very Twilight Zone-esque.
Yeah.
I had to go with Shirley Jackson again. We have always lived in the castle. If you like that mob mentality, that idea of the small town, the isolation, it's good. It plays out quite well in that book as well. Anything else you want to talk about, Shirley, here?
No, I mean,
Okay.
we gave this
I think it's good. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, I got everything. Worked
Good.
out.
All right, well, you want to end us out here?
If you like this sort of thing, we are going to be doing many short story reviews. We're going to be doing many read-alongs. We're going to be doing many poetry discussions here on the channel. And stay tuned for that by hitting the subscribe button. Hit like this video if you appreciate this sort of thing. It really helps us out on the channel. And if you would like to help us create more content here on Strip Cover Lit, there is a link, as always, to our Patreon to be found in the description below. I can't blame you.